Hi, we're Roy and Karen, and today
it's a special video. Karen is a West Coast girl. Mm-hmm. You were born in
California.
She had never seen the fall colors. One day we were talking about, let's go on a vacation, and where are we going to go?
And here we are checking airfares going, really? $38 to Cleveland?
What are we going to do in Cleveland? What kind of vacation is going to Cleveland? What you guys will find out is how I plan a vacation. I can fit a lot of stuff in a week. Here we go. It was a whirlwind week. It started on October 13th, 2017. We caught a plane from Austin, Texas to Cleveland, Ohio. Mm-hmm. We got off the plane, and the first place we went to, we just wanted to take a drive around to see Cleveland, and we stopped off and we saw the Cuyahoga River. And I'm like, honey, I don't know if you know about this, that's the river that caught on fire in 1969 because it was so polluted that the river caught on fire. Look how gorgeous it looks now. Mm-hmm. We drove all around Cleveland, mm-hmm. just taking in the sights of it's an old steel town. It was very interesting, mm-hmm. driving around.
Different neighborhoods, historic areas. It was mm-hmm. nice.
And we got hungry. And I have to read this from here because Sokolovsky's University Inn was established in 1923 and it was Cleveland's oldest family-owned and operated restaurant. After COVID, they shut down and it never reopened. They had actually won a James Beard American Classics Award in 2014. And it's a Polish restaurant. I don't remember what we ate, but the picture says we ate meatballs the size of our heads. So, anything else you remember about that particular day, honey?
Well, I know that our vacations used to very frequently be built around food stops, so it makes sense that that's one of the prominent ones.
Yeah. Well, on October 14th, we got up bright and early in the morning, and we ran down to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
This music guy
was amazing for me. Mm-hmm. Amazing. You've seen some of these pictures, but it just doesn't do justice to
how impressive those exhibits are.
To see Ringo's drum set. I mean, it was just amazing. Just amazing. Tom Petty had just died maybe a week or two before we got there. Mm-hmm. And I was really hoping that they would have done something for him. It just wasn't, they didn't do anything. One of the things on this trip that we had to do is we had to go many, many miles every single day in order to make this loop. This day, October 14th, besides going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we had 200 miles to drive. We had to get to Niagara Falls that night. That was the plan, and that was where the hotel was. On the way, we drove all along Lake Erie, and we stopped in Buffalo, New York, for dinner. That was at the Anchor Bar. That's where they invented the buffalo wing. It wasn't because they cut off the wings of buffaloes. It was because it was invented in Buffalo, New York. And some people say, yeah, but those aren't the best buffalo wings. Yeah, but they're the original buffalo wings. That's what counts in my mind. We went to Niagara Falls, and that was pretty awesome, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Another bucket list item checked. So we got to see it. It's the first thing we did as soon as we got there. I just wanted to go see it.
Yeah.
All lit up at night, just gorgeous.
That's what I was going to say.
Just gorgeous.
I had no idea. I thought those colors that they did were just like for a special occasion. I didn't know they did that all the time.
Lit up like the U.S. flag.
So the next day, which is October 15th, we wake up in the morning and we go back down to Niagara Falls. Down this long hill from the hotel to get up close and personal to that water.
See it from a whole different perspective.
Yeah,
and
it was.
I mean, to see it, feel it, hear it. I mean, it was just amazing.
We were so close to it. It was, yeah, the ground. You felt it. But this day, October 15th, after hitting the falls again, we had 275 miles to go that day. We had to be in Albany, New York to visit my cousin Janie that I hadn't seen since I was 17 years old. So I hadn't met her son and I hadn't met her grandkids. And
that was fun.
well, so we're driving from Niagara Falls all through
We had
upstate New York.
a little pit stop.
We did. We stopped at Lucas Winery, one of the wineries at Finger Lakes. And you know, you go on the TripAdvisor, you say, which is the best winery to go to? And poof, that's the one. All right, we're off.
We just stumbled upon one and went in and then looked at TripAdvisor. So it was neat. Had no idea. I'm a California girl. I know about California wines. Oregon girl. I know about Oregon wines. We learned about Texas wines.
And we had our first
Wine slushy. Who knew? I
Who
didn't
ever heard
know.
of that? Now, ever since then, we've noticed that that's a thing. Yeah. But that was the first time we had it. It was really good. I really enjoyed that. What does it say here? Well, we just drove all through upstate New York, and you got to see the first of your fall colors. But again, we needed to get to see my cousin Janie, which we did, and I'm sure I got pictures up. And how many years? What is that? 40 years since I've seen her? 50 years since I've seen her? Something crazy like that. And it was like I saw her yesterday.
Just picking up right where they left off.
It was wonderful. Just wonderful. Love you, cousin Janie. So, and Albany Lou, I didn't know I had a rap star in the family. It's crazy. I'll put a link to some of his stuff so you can listen to that. The next morning, October 16th, it was very important that I get Karen a Vermont breakfast with real maple syrup.
No Aunt Jemima for me.
I had to search around because we're leaving Albany and I got to get into Vermont. I got to find a place that's a good place to eat, not just a crappy place. But we got to get there.
Time.
I got to get there within breakfast time. And I found this little town of Bennington, Vermont, and there was this little diner called the Blue Ben, and it was an old-fashioned aluminum-sided diner thing that's all over the East Coast. But Karen had never been in one of these things, a luncheonette type of a place. East Coasters know exactly what I'm talking about. West Coasters probably don't.
I think of Carney's hot dogs when you describe that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So there is one place in LA built out of one of these aluminum-sided luncheonette thingies. But we got real maple syrup.
Authentic and delicious.
And from there, this was going to be another 275-mile drive. Scenic drive. This was probably the most scenic drive because as we started heading north in Vermont, going up to Lake Champlain,
Where we
really
discovered,
started seeing
Another winery.
another winery.
Wines got sweeter as we went north.
Yeah.
Shelbourne Vineyards, but that was fun too.
Yeah. As we started going up further north, we started getting into more color. And we started going through these small Vermont towns. It was just beautiful. And I was glad that was like the moment where I went, I'm so glad that I'm doing this for Karen. I mean, I'm enjoying myself, but when you do things for me and you watch me really enjoying myself, you know that pleasure you get. Well, I'm watching Karen and she's just getting so much out of this, and I'm just like, yeah, good job, Roy.
And thank you for the timing.
Lake Champlain was really, really windy, and we just did not spend a lot of time there, but it was awesome to be there. We drove right past the Vermont Teddy Bear Company, and I was like, oh, I want to go take Karen there. But it's like, if we stop there, it's just gonna, we still have 275 miles to go.
And if we were going to stop somewhere, I'd rather stop for ice cream.
So we did. We took the Ben & Jerry's tour, which was terrific. And what they said was they don't actually use real Vermont maple syrup in their maple syrup ice cream because most people don't like real maple syrup. It's too sweet. Most people prefer the fake stuff. So we drove and we saw, and it was gorgeous, Vermont and New Hampshire. We didn't stop in New Hampshire, but it was a beautiful drive. Even on the turnpike, it was a beautiful drive. But we had to get to Boston tomorrow morning. That was the next stop. This video that's probably showing right now, this is when we come up out of the underground parking lot. We end up in this square, this park that as we started walking, we came to
The start of the Freedom Trail.
And we did that. That's how we spent our morning on the Freedom Trail. We saw Paul Revere's house. We saw where Independence Hall.
Independence Hall's in Philadelphia.
Okay, what did we see? What is it
We
called?
saw the State House.
The State House. That's what it was. The State House.
Well, we walked the whole trail mostly. Well, most of the whole trail. So I'm not sure what all was there because we didn't tour it and we were moving pretty fast.
So
Boston Tea Party.
Right. So we ended up at the harbor at the end of this Freedom Trail. Amazing. Sometimes things can be anticlimactic. It was perfect. The Boston Tea Party. So what did we? Okay. So from there, our next stop, our next hotel was going to be on Rhode Island. So we had 120 miles to go from Boston to Rhode Island.
So we had a pit stop in between.
We did, right there, to see Plymouth Rock, which I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but they don't even know if that really is Plymouth Rock.
And it might have been bigger at one point.
I mean, you read this stuff and it's like, really? I mean, they don't even...
Like,
here's Plymouth Rock, but we're not really sure it really is. One of the things that was fascinating, though, was the painted lobsters. In Oregon, in Grants Pass, they have painted bears. In San Angelo, Texas,
painted sheep. Calaveras, California.
They have painted frogs. We headed over to our Airbnb on
bed and breakfast.
Newport, Rhode Island. It was very nice. I wanted a lobster roll. Now, even though I'm from New York City, I grew up in LA and in California. And in California, when they make a lobster roll, it's really lobster salad. It's made with mayonnaise and celery, and it's put in a hero bread. But on the East Coast, they make a thing called the Connecticut lobster roll. And what that is, it's a hot dog bun filled with warm lobster meat and drizzled with butter. Just talking about it, just describing it, I'm going out of my mind right now. And I looked up the best place to get this in New England. It's closed because we're doing this trip in the latter half of October, and it's shut down for the season. So I look it up, and the next best place to go is in Rhode Island, is on Newport, and we're gonna go there. And as you can see by this picture, I was not happy. They were closed for a private event. So we went to another place, and I got a lobster roll. You know, it's lobster, how bad can it be? But it just wasn't what I wanted. And I got steamed clams, and they really weren't all that good. And it was just a disappointing meal. But the story's not over yet. So October 18th, we get up in the morning.
And we go to see the Rhode Island mansions and walk along the water and look at these amazing homes. And
those are not homes.
experience that.
These are massive things.
And after all that driving, it felt good to be out in the sunshine and fresh air and walking instead of sitting.
Very nice. It was very nice. I think some of those mansions belong to like the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers and people like this. These were their summer homes. This is their dinghies. That day, October 18th, we have a 250-mile drive we got to do.
Headed to Philadelphia.
That's where we're going, is to Philly. That's our next stop. And we're going to go through Rhode Island and Connecticut and New York and New Jersey to get to Philly. And it's a great drive. Driving, seeing the New York skyline and all that. It was just beautiful. But we were on the freeway, the turnpike, or whatever we were on. And I just remember seeing you're welcome to the state of Connecticut. Something like this. And I went, wait a minute. What's that lobster roll called?
The Connecticut lobster roll.
That's what they call it, a Connecticut lobster roll.
So out comes the phone.
Oh my gosh, let's get TripAdvisor on here. And
lo and behold, we just crossed the state line, and the next off-ramp.
The very next exit, it says get off.
Yes.
So we get off, and we go to Captain Scott's, who makes the most amazing lobster roll. It was so good. Our trip has been redeemed. We got the lobster roll.
You got the Rhode Island clam chowder.
Yes. What I did not know, and maybe you didn't know, did you know there's 3 kinds of clam chowder? There's the white kind, New England. There's the red kind, Manhattan clam chowder. But did you know there was a third one called Rhode Island clam chowder? And basically, it's potatoes and clams and seawater. And it's awful. But how to get it?
Not a very pretty looking meal. And seafood is this one's love. It's just not, I'm okay with some of it. Just not a big deal for me, but he was so disappointed.
It was terrible. Well, no, I really wasn't. I was so glad that I got
to finally try it.
That lobster roll that I really wanted. And it was so good. It was stuffed with lobster. It was so good. So from here, we are now going to drive through Connecticut, through New York, through New Jersey, like I said, see the skyline, all this interesting stuff that Karen's never seen before. We drive in, we come into Pennsylvania, and what is the first thing we do?
We go to Independence Hall.
Is that the first
Because
thing we
they
do?
were about to close.
That's right.
Because we had a couple of extra pit stops that made us a little late getting into town. So we ran into Independence Hall.
Yeah, and literally they were going to close in 5 minutes.
Yep.
So I got to see the Liberty Bell.
Do the quick selfie.
It's bing bing. and that was pretty much it, right?
Pretty much. Well, we walked across the street and we saw the actual Independence Hall. It was nice. Quick, but nice. Thankfully, I had an opportunity to do it before.
That's right. You had gone to
Philadelphia
Philly
for training.
For a training. And what was interesting was you were going to go to Pat's on that trip, but someone said to you, no, Pat's is not the best cheesesteak. You want to go to Jim's. He's got the best one.
And I was with a group of people, so they said, let's go there, and off we went.
But like I said about the Anchor Bar may not be the best wings you've ever had, but they are the one who invented the buffalo wing. So you got to go there. Okay, I don't know if Pat's is the best cheesesteak or not, but I want to go where it was invented. So we each got one and devoured it. Devoured it.
That's my love language, beef.
Karen turns her head and she says, honey, what's that place down there? And I said, that's Gino's. Gino's opened up a place down there to compete with Pat's, maybe 10 years later, 15 years later, or something like that. Well, she says, well,
What's the difference?
What's the difference? And I said, one of them chops the meat and one of them doesn't chop the meat. That's about the difference. We got to try it.
Yeah, we're here.
So after having an entire one at Pat's, we then went over to Gino's and we split one. I didn't taste the difference. Did you taste the difference?
There was a difference.
Okay.
It would have been better to have half of one at each place, but because by then I was so full.
On October 19th, we wake up in the morning, and again, it's another food thing I've been dying to try. This is something that's built up since my childhood. When I was a kid growing up on the East Coast, there were certain foods that just sounded terrible, and as a kid, I'm just not going to eat it. So, for example, my dad and I stopped in a restaurant somewhere, and on the menu was shoe fly pie. I ain't eating that. Flies? Not eating that. But another one of the things I refused to eat was scrapple. And I know that there's controversy over scrapple. Do you eat it with ketchup or do you eat it with maple syrup?
Or not at all.
Some people go for the not at all. But I didn't understand why there would be so much controversy over the ketchup and the maple syrup until I actually tasted scrapple. And it's not because scrapple tastes bad. It's because scrapple doesn't taste at all. It's just a piece of cardboard. And if you don't put ketchup or maple syrup on it, there's no flavor in it at all on this thing. And maybe I just had bad scrapple. I don't know.
It's something you have to be probably raised with to appreciate.
I don't know. Another long day. This is a 250-mile day.
But we have a lot of things to do.
We have a lot of things to do before we can do that. So
have
the first
scrapple
thing,
for breakfast.
and then
we take a tour of the Amish country.
in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Actually, I think we had breakfast in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Very close to where we picked up the tour.
Right. And
It's
so we
an
went.
active farm with the family living there and opening it up to show you how things work. It was very nice. They had so many neat things, everything handmade, because not a lot of
Yeah.
machinery in those places, at least not the kind that are motorized. Had breakfast, had our tour, and then off to Pittsburgh we go.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, I want you to know, we're only going to Pittsburgh for one reason.
To get see
Whoa.
the tour of the Heinz factory for the ketchup you had on your scrapple.
No. No, don't know. The reason I wanted to go to this particular restaurant is I'd seen it on one of the Food Network shows, and it just totally fascinated me. And it's called Tremonti Brothers. And there's a picture of it there, I'm sure. What it is?
Lots of character.
Okay, the bread is this thick. So you got 2 slices of really thick bread. And then whatever meat it is that you know, the combination you pick, and you know, they have a big board showing you all the different choices. But then they take a handful of coleslaw and they do that with it. And then they take a handful of French fries. They do that with it, and then the other piece of bread goes on top.
Just trying to get your hands around it. Forget about your mouth.
Well, it was amazingly good.
So much character. Food was great.
And they're cooking it right in front of you.
Yep.
But I couldn't really taste the meat. So I said, hey, ladies, I'd like you to cook it my way this time. And you can see the reaction I got. But they did do it for me. And I wanted the coleslaw and the fries on the side. That's like sacrilege at Tremonti's.
But they let you know how they felt about it.
They did. We had just got finished a 250-mile day. And now we've had dinner. We need to get back in Cleveland for a flight first thing in the morning.
So we leave Pittsburgh and head back to Ohio.
Another 125 miles in the pitch black. And I don't remember, did we get a hotel there? Or I don't know what we did.
No recollection at that point.
None whatsoever. That was our week.
We did cover a lot of ground. There was no way to see and do what we did without driving those kind of miles to hit all those spots.
But when you think about how many bucket list items are in just that one trip alone, if you want to see what's currently on our bucket list, check this video out over here. In the meantime,
we appreciate you stopping by.
See ya.